Hello, everyone, and welcome to part one of Phoenix Society's summer webinar series. I am your host, Rachel Kudlak, and today, like I mentioned, is part one. We're hosting 3 webinar videos all summer long, and I'm excited to have a special guest joining me on each one of those webinars. So today is our first one, and it is our summer fire safety. And we have the pleasure of having Lorraine Carli joining us today. So Lorraine is the Vice President of Outreach and Advocacy for the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, where she oversees all media and public affairs activities, the organization's magazine, NFPA Journal, NFPA's Wildfire and Public Education and Regional Operations divisions. She has extensive experience in public relations and marketing for healthcare, medical technology, government, and nonprofit organizations. So thank you so much, Lorraine, for joining us today.
Thanks, Rachel. Happy to be here on the first of these webinars. It's exciting.
Yes. So, and for anyone who is joining us live, make sure you comment your questions or thoughts or whatever you want to share with Lorraine in our comment section. We'll be able to take those from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and we'll be able to pull them up here on the screen. So be sure to be commenting away there in the comments. So I guess, Lorraine, to kind of start us off, can you talk a little bit about why summer, in the summer months, we see a heightened risk for some fire, just fire risks in general?
Sure. And I'll just back up a second, Rachel, and just say in general, fires continue to be a problem. And I think because over the last several decades, we've actually reduced the number of fires. People don't think as often about fire safety. And they're a little bit complacent, thinking that it probably isn't going to happen to them. But regardless of the time of year, we see some seasonality things that happen, that it's just a really important reminder that people can pay attention and take very simple precautions to keep themselves and their family safe. So obviously in the summer, we see different things, different activities that people are doing that come along with some additional risks related to fire. So if we think about the kinds of activities that we're all looking forward to doing this summer, boating, grilling, camping, going to fireworks displays, each one of them probably has an element of fire safety that we can remind people about and provide them with some tips on safety. So it's not the top time of year that we see fires. The most fires occur in winter, but in summer, we see some unusual ones associated with the things that we like to do during the summer.
Mm-hmm. No, that's such a great point. And I know, you mentioned a few of them, but, for example, I've been spending more time outside. We always grill a lot more in the summer because it's just a beautiful evening. It's enjoyable to be out there cooking dinner. Can you talk a little bit about some of the grilling, risks or how we can stay safe if folks are grilling more in the summer months?
Yeah, people are outdoors. They're enjoying the great weather. So out comes the grill, usually around Memorial Day, all the way through the early times of the fall. So if you're using your grill for the first time, whether it's a gas grill or a charcoal grill, just make sure that your grill is in good working order. If we think about our gas grills, are the hoses in good shape? And you can test the hoses on your grill by turning on the gas and putting a soapy cloth or water along the hose. If you see them bubbling, that will mean that you have some kind of leak. So you want to shut it off, replace those hoses, make sure all of your connections are in the right places and they're tight and all of that, so that you have a good start to the grilling season. Then as you start to grill and have family and friends over, keeping a safe distance around your grill so that nobody gets burned, and also keeping anything that can burn a safe distance away from the grill. And we usually say that's about 3 feet away. So your pot holders, your food wrappers, any of those things that can burn, just keeping them away from your grilling area is always a good safety tip.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I know you're giving out so many great tips right now, but I want to remind folks too that if you visit nfpa.org, there's so many more fire safety tips, whether that's grilling, even all the different types of grills. I didn't even think about that. I know me and my husband, we just got a grill from a friend who was getting rid of it. And my husband's been cleaning it and making sure it's all good to go. So definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Well, he knows better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but my husband last year put our grill a little too close to our house, and we avoided a tragedy, but he had to listen to me about move the grill away, because you don't want your grill too close to the side of your house, decking, low-hanging branches or trees. So make sure everything is a little distance away, including children and pets, keeping them away from your grill. And you mentioned different types of grill. If you think about charcoal grills, one of the things, a big safety tip is, if your fire has started, you've got a nice fire going, you don't need to add additional lighter fluid, because that's when you get those big flare-ups that have the potential for igniting things that might be close, and even the burn hazard. So that's a good tip for your charcoal grill, in addition to the ones about just grills in general.
Definitely. Well, another, outdoor activity that folks, and maybe this happens a little bit more in the fall too, but campfires or even bonfires, just gathering around with friends and family. What are some safety tips we need to be following if we are hosting and having a campfire in our backyard, for example?
Yeah, it is the time of year that's campfires, fire pits, bonfires, all of those things. And it's just being aware that those do come with some risk of fire and risk of burn. So to take extra precautions and keeping people a safe distance away from it, making sure that you have a hose or a bucket of sand or water nearby in the event that something does happen, not using extra fluids or things to get things going, but just taking those extra little steps to make sure you're being safe when you're around those type of things. The thing with campfires, though, too, is making sure that they're actually allowed, whether live or where you're camping, and have the right permits in place. Usually they're asking for a big area, 25 feet or so, to keep away from anything that can burn. And we also see, as different areas of the country and different times of the year, things are really dry. So they may not be allowing campfires for the risk of wildfires. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that where are you? What are the local requirements? And make sure that you're following those local requirements so that you don't end up with a bigger catastrophe.
Definitely. And I think, you talked a little bit too about just making sure things are far enough away from the campfire, bonfire, making sure your chairs are far enough away. You could just get up and accidentally hit your chair wrong and fall down, and you want to make sure you're at a safe distance.
Yeah, and make sure you're just attending to the campfire. Don't leave it alone. At the end of the night, make sure that it's totally extinguished, wetting down everything, storing any ashes or things in a metal container, but really making sure that everything is out before you leave that fire, because there could be embers that are burning that could then reignite into something larger.
Definitely. Yeah, and we have Tara here in the comments. She said, great safety tips. Thanks for sharing this information. So thanks, Tara, for joining us today. And for anyone else listening, this is a live webinar. So let us know what questions you have or thoughts, comments. If you have any other tips too you want to share with our community, let us know and we'll bring them up here. So
yeah, love to hear from your listeners of things that they do that keep their family safe in the summer while they're doing all of these things, but appreciate the comments for sure.
yeah, definitely. Well, we mentioned this earlier, but July 4th is, I guess, like a week and a day away. It's hard
Yeah.
to believe that July is next week already. I feel like summer's flying by as always.
Yeah.
But July 4th, when we hear from our burn centers and our hospitals that they always see an increased risk of burn injuries coming to them. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with some of the things we already talked about, like grilling and campfires, but obviously fireworks are a whole nother component of summer fire safety. So can you talk a little bit about just some tips we should be following and how to stay safe, especially on July 4th?
Yes, sadly, 4th of July is a very busy day for emergency rooms and a very busy day for fire departments because we do see a huge increase in burn injuries and fires on that day, a lot associated with fireworks. NFPA has a very strong stance against the use of consumer fireworks because frankly, there really is no safe way to use consumer fireworks. We see those stories every year around the 4th of July where an errant firework went into a crowd and injured somebody, or a firework tipped over and set a house, a porch, grass on fire. So NFPA has had this very clear position that really people should go to professional displays of fireworks and leave the fireworks to the professionals. Those are put on by people that are trained and understand and have taken all of the safety precautions to make those exhibits as safe as possible. So that's the best way to enjoy a display during the 4th of July. And now we also see a lot of other things. We see drone displays and laser light shows that have taken the place of some fireworks displays. Those are really great options as well. Just leave it to professionals, because in the hands of consumers, we just see so many accidents that occur, particularly the young children, and even things that I think a lot of people think are safe, like sparklers. We think about sparklers in the hands of a child. They can burn at about 1,200 degrees. You think about that. You bake a cake in your oven at 350 degrees. So you're looking at something that's 3 or 4 times as hot as what you would use to bake a cake, and you're handing that to a young child. Sparks can not only burn, but maybe catch clothing on fire. So there's a lot of risk associated with things that people think are probably safe. So the best course of action around the 4th of July is to enjoy those professional displays. Look for some drone displays. Those are really cool now. There's lots of those happening instead. So there are options for people that are probably a very safe option.
Definitely. I know for kids too, one thing that we've promoted in the past, and I know NFPA promotes this as well, as glow sticks. Those are a really fun way to get that bright, fun activity with if you're at a fireworks show. That way the kids can feel like they're involved.
That's a great idea as well, Rachel. I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's another safe option. Flashlights, glow sticks. There's a lot of other things that'll be a little bit safer for folks.
Definitely. Well, one other thing I wanted to chat with you about too, which I feel like maybe we don't talk enough about. And, I live in Charleston, so I'm on the boat in the summer. I enjoy being out on the water, but, boating also comes with fire risks, and it's important to kind of, I just didn't really think about that a ton, honestly, because I'm like, oh, I'm on the water. How would a fire, I'm on the water, it would be okay, right? So maybe could you share a little bit too about just boating safety and some of those risks?
That's another great one to bring up, because people are out on the water having a great time. They're not thinking about fire safety necessarily, but they want to think about some of the same things that we think about around our home. Boats have a lot of electrical things on them, so electrical safety and making sure cords, wires, plugs are in good working order, that they're being used appropriately, that they're the right ones for being on boats. So those have extra, they're really made for boating. So those have those extra precautions built in. So you want to make sure of that you think about having a fire extinguisher, and knowing what to do if there is a fire on the boat, making sure that your communication tools are in good working order so that you can get help if you need it. And anything that can burn, being safe around that. If you might have people that are smoking on a boat. So taking similar precautions that you do in your home for a boat as well is important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I know. It's funny, I always think like, oh, and we talk about this even like during fire prevention week in the fall and testing our escape plan and our smoke detectors. I'm always like, well, I'm a burn survivor. I should be like the walking, like, I don't know, advocate of what you should and should not be doing. And boating was just something that, it's still new to me, but I guess I didn't really think about all of those associated risks with the boat.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I think a lot of people feel the same way, is that it's pretty safe. It's a small enclosed area, and you'll be able to get help if you need it. But a lot of what we talk about with fire safety is what you do up front from prevention, and making sure that no matter whether you're at home, on a campsite, or on a boat, that everything is in good working order. You've got the right equipment, like smoke alarms and fire extinguishers, or what you're going to need around the campfire. We talked about that bucket of water and sand. And then knowing what to do in the event that something happens. So again, whether it's your home or a campsite or a boat, how do you get help quickly? How do you escape? How do you get help for other people that might not be able to escape? So all of those same practices go into play, whether you're at a vacation home, your own home, on a campsite, or on your boat.
That's such a great point.
Just thinking about safety, which isn't always top of mind, because people are focused on having a good time. You want to make sure that you can continue that good time and not have a fire or something else interrupt you.
Definitely. And the point about the vacation home too is such a good point. I tend to like always go visit like friends and family, but a lot of people will go and stay at a beach house, and making sure that they have working smoke detectors. It's one thing to have it on the listing that they're actually working, but do they actually work when you get there?
And do they actually have them when you get there? Yeah. And then checking to make sure that they do work. And then familiarizing yourself with the home so that you'll know 2 ways out of every room in the event that something happens, because it's a place that you're not familiar with. Sadly, what we know about home fires today is that they can become deadly in as little as 2 minutes. And people think in their own home they'd be able to get out in 2 minutes. Well, you may not, because the things that we have in our home, when they burn, there's a lot of toxic smoke from electronics, from polyurethane materials and things like that. So you may not be able to get out of your own home in 2 minutes or less, and you're familiar with those surroundings. So if you're renting somewhere or you're in a hotel, we always see those signs on the back of hotel doors about where the exits are. I hope people remember to shut the door and look at those and look out the door to see, okay, if something does happen, this is the way that I'm going, so that you are prepared in the event that something happens. I stayed in a hotel in Washington a couple of months ago, and the smoke alarm went off, and there was actually a fire on my floor. And I ran down 7 flights of stairs. There were a few people outside, but probably not as many as were staying in that hotel. We always say at NFPA, when those things happen, we're usually the first ones out of the building. But that's a good reminder to people. If you hear an alarm, if you're staying away on vacation, get out quickly and stay out until you can figure out what actually happened.
Definitely, definitely. And that does happen in especially hotels. And it could be from someone just cooking something and a smoke
That
detector.
was the case in this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not something, oh, it could just be an accident or it's nothing major, but you never know until you know when you're outside waiting. So don't take those,
never take safety for granted. For the time that it takes you to go out and make sure everything is okay and wait for the fire department to say it's all clear to come back in.
You won't regret it.
For sure. For sure. But, you raise a good point about people renting homes because, there's so many people that rent through the various providers now.
Mm-hmm.
They may list some of the safety requirements, but taking that extra time to make sure that they're actually there and that they're working and that you familiarize yourself with the surroundings is a great practice. When you first enter into one of those vacation homes, make sure you understand all of the safety features.
Yeah. And it gives you just peace of mind. So it doesn't
take those 2 seconds to check around and make sure everything is okay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Lorraine, I know we are coming up on our time here, so I just want to do one last quick call. If you have any comments or questions or just thoughts, drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're watching this later and not live with us, that's okay too. Leave your questions and comments, and I'll pass those on to Lorraine, and we'll get back to you. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier of, as a burn survivor, I especially feel like I have to be following, all the safety measures, all the safety tips, but something that I kind of run into is like, yes, I'm being safe, but like, how can I help others know about these risks? So can you talk a little bit about, for our listeners watching right now, how can they help spread the message?
Sure. One way is if you have visitors in your home, explaining to them what the safety features are in your home, working with schools and local groups. We have a lot of listeners, I'm sure, that are Little League coaches, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, teachers aid, spreading those messages, particularly to children, because what we find with children, not only are they good receivers of the message, but they're also good deliverers and advocates of the message. They go home and they ask their parents or caretakers, where are our smoke alarms? Have we tested them lately? So being part of a community that spreads the message about safety awareness. And you mentioned earlier about Fire Prevention Week, which comes out, which is in October. But we just recently, last week, announced the theme for this year's Fire Prevention Week, which is smoke alarms, make them work for you. So that's a really important message all year long, but something we will be focusing on in particular in the fall. But good for your listeners to get on board and learn more about Fire Prevention Week and what they can use from our site to share in their communities and their families. We have lots of information that people can use to help educate people and take action during Fire Prevention Week. So that's a great way for people to get involved in fire safety.
Definitely. I love that theme too. I didn't know that just came out. So that's
it came out last week. Yes. At our conference. And, tragically, we still see the majority of fire deaths happen in homes that have either no smoke alarms or no working smoke alarms. So that's really why we chose this theme this year. Smoke alarms, make them work for you. You might have smoke alarms, but maybe the batteries are dead, or maybe they're more than 10 years old. Maybe you haven't tested them lately. So it's that working piece that's essential for the smoke alarm. So it's a great theme for us to get everybody rallying around this year.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. And I know we had the website banner up, but if you're listening to this later too, nfpa.org, so many great resources on there, fact sheets, PDFs, social media graphics. I know you guys make it so easy for us to just go quickly pull something and post it online. So, I appreciate that. And for anyone listening who either wants more information for themselves or something to share, NFPA's website has everything you could be looking for.
Yeah, thanks for the plug, Rachel, and follow us on social. You guys are fantastic at sharing our messages, and we really appreciate that. The more people that share it, the more lives that we save.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, before we close out, Lorraine, I just want to first thank you so much for joining me today and spreading this message. You mentioned it earlier, but it's really about that prevention and education pieces because we want everyone to enjoy grilling and boating and going on vacation. Like these are some of the best memories we're all making. And we just want to make sure you're having as much fun as safely as possible so that fun can continue on for years and years to come.
Yeah, no, I think that's the big message, Rachel. This is a great time of year, lots of family activities, lots of outdoor time, lots of exciting times to make those memories. If you take a little bit of time up front and do the preventative work, hopefully you'll have a great summer and a wonderful season.
Yes. Well, any last thoughts or comments, Lorraine, before we close out today?
Again, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to always talk to you and talk about safety. And I think the big message is that the vast majority of fires can be prevented by taking some very simple actions. And I hope today we've given your listeners a few of those simple things that they can do.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Lorraine, and thank you to everyone who joined us live. And like I said, if you're watching later on, I know sometimes this lunchtime doesn't always work for everyone, but if you're watching this later and you have questions or comments, let us know in the comment section. We'll get back to you. And thank you again, Lorraine. We appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. Have a great summer, Rachel. I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.